Hey everybody, it's Dr. Leith. I'm recording this for the addictions course. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm sorry for the delay in getting this to everybody. I hope you guys find it informative. Today I'm going over cognitive interventions for substance use and addiction. So hopefully you walk away from this with a couple skills in mind for when you work with clients struggling with substance use or addiction. So I know everybody, well, chances are everybody has already taken their theories course. So this will just be a quick review of, let me move this up here. And of course, now my computer wants to check for updates. All right. So, quick review of CBT, right? Usually a short term modality, 6 to 20 sessions. We're focused on the present. We're very specific about the goals and what the problem is. Direct approach, right? Here is the situation. Here's what the problem is. Here's what our goal is, and we're going to work through that. We're not going to have kind of an amorphous moving target. We're going to lock on to something. Take a direct approach. Here's what we're doing. Very structured. So you, the counselor, are going in each week with a set of goals. You're going to set an agenda. In fact, agenda setting is one of the namesakes or one of the main contributors to the success of CBT. The use of homework, so we do expect clients to do stuff outside of session. And the whole premise is we are looking at the person's thoughts and behavior, hence cognitive behavioral. Now, we're not going to go into all the nitty gritty of who came up with it and stuff like that. I leave that for the theories book and the theories course, but if you want more information, I'm happy to give it to you. So, many people, when you work with someone and you say, what led to you drinking, right? So let's think of somebody who's trying to stop, but maybe they're ambivalent or they are actually trying and they did wind up having a drink. And so you say, well, what happened? And they will probably wind up saying, X caused Y, Y being my drinking. This thing happened, and then I drank, right? I got in a fight with my spouse. I failed a test. I got in a car accident, and so that's why I used. And that's what it is. It gets condensed down to my little graph got messed up. But situation leads to emotional response, right? And that's oversimplifying. And so that's where we jump in, right? So this is what you're doing in CBT. There's automatic thoughts involved, right? So this is the missing piece for a lot of people. There's a whole bunch of stuff between the activating event and that outcome. I'm trying to get my hands in the camera here. So automatic thoughts, they happen very quickly, they're implicit, they're automatic, hence the name. And so a lot of people aren't even aware that they're having them, right? And so this is what we talk about this is what we mean when we talk about neuroplasticity. When you do something over and over and over and over again, in this case, substance use, it's when something bad happens, I use. When something good happens, I use, right? It just becomes ingrained. Now, the good news is that can change, and that's what you're doing with CBT. This is kind of like the example I gave, a loud bang at 2 a.m., right? If someone came up, you're asleep in your bed, it's 2 a.m., and someone comes up and bangs on your door, bangs on your window, you'll immediately jump up and think something's wrong, right? Or if you get a call in the middle of the night from someone who never calls you, your immediate reaction, your automatic thought is something's wrong. It's not that it's faulty, it's just that it's automatic. So these automatic thoughts are based on rules and assumptions about the world. So, where did the automatic thoughts come from? Right? Well, they come from these ideas that this is the way the world works. So, someone bangs on your door, calls you at 2 a.m. Well, one of the assumptions is no one would call me at 2 a.m. unless it was an emergency. Therefore, if you're calling me at 2 a.m., it is an emergency, right? And that comes from a whole lot of stuff, right? On the family, culture, societal expectations, observation, and then, of course, just assumptions and direct experience. So those rules and assumptions come from core beliefs, right? So this is at the very center of the person, right? These are what Beck would consider the deepest levels of cognition. These are the ones that are just beyond ingrained. They're kind of the essence of how you see the world working. This is the ideas that people are inherently good, inherently bad. I'm a bad person, I'm a great person, whatever it might be, right? So this is at the very center. So those core beliefs feed the assumptions and rules about the world. Those assumptions and rules about the world influence the automatic thoughts. So here's the situation, then it goes to this automatic thought that's based on assumptions that are derived from core beliefs, and then leads to the outcome. So there's a whole lot of stuff. So it's all that stuff in the middle that you're working on as a CBT counselor. So metacognition, this is a term everybody's probably heard. It's also a good NCE word to remember. The work of a CBT counselor is to get the person to think about their thinking, right? They are fact-checking themselves. They are testing their assumptions. Do I have evidence for this? Is this an automatic thought? All of that. And so that's what this presentation will be about, on how to work with a client with that, specifically in regards to substance abuse. But hopefully you'll be able to see how you can take those skills, and they're not only for substance abuse. So at the end of counseling with a client, we're trying to get the client to slow down their thinking. Thoughts happen so fast, right? They're implicit, those automatic thoughts, they're immediate. Have y'all seen at supermarkets? I remember when I was a little kid, there was like this funnel type thing with the gumball machines and all that, and you put a coin in and it would spiral, right? And it would go faster and faster and faster the closer it got to the center, until eventually it fell down this hole. You've only got like a split second to grab that coin back before it's going so fast that you won't get it. Same with the thoughts. Your client only has a very limited amount of time to kind of enact the tools that you're giving them and saying, hey, you got to catch those thoughts. But we want them to be able to slow down. So that means they got to think about, okay, I'm having a moment. I'm having a reaction. Where did it come from? Right? And so that's the long-term goal, that they're able to do this. Short-term, we're able to help them practice in session, right? They come in each week. We ask them how it went. We talk about their thoughts and feelings and experiences, and then we start kind of examining those thoughts. So the goals in counseling then, or for the client, are to become aware of their thoughts, assess those thoughts. So I'm having a thought. I'm thinking about having a drink. I think the world is falling apart. I think nobody likes me. Assessing them, right? Is this accurate? Why am I thinking this? What is the evidence for or against this? Where's the thought coming from? Identify some emotions, right? I'm feeling lonely, feeling angry, I'm feeling frustrated. Managing those emotions. Am I so angry that I want to break something? Am I so angry that I want to risk my job? And then changing the behavior. Okay, I'm pretty angry, but I don't want to, in this case, drink. But it might be I'm so angry, but I don't want to ruin my marriage. I'm so sad, but I don't want to self-harm, right? And then we change the behavior. Sounds simple, right? And it's clear. It's kind of like Tetris. It's easy to understand, but it's difficult to master. So early on in your sessions, those first couple sessions, all your standard boilerplate stuff, confidentiality, informed consent, etc. It's important. I'm not minimizing it. I just don't want to go over it right now. But you do all that. You're building rapport, right? Establishing a connection. And in this case with substance use, remember what we've talked about, that they've already got a belly full of people telling them, you got to stop, you've got a problem, You're an alcoholic, all the name calling and labeling. So you have to establish that it's safe, that they're doing this. Maybe it's a problem, maybe it's not, maybe it's addiction, maybe it's not. In any case, though, I'm here for you. I want to help you, right? You got to establish that. That's the only way that they're going to be comfortable or feel safe talking to you about what's going on. Establishing goals, great step that you should do regardless of modality. In CBT, it's especially important because we got to pinpoint what we're going to work on. Problem identification, it dovetails with the goals. I can't have a goal unless I ID the problem, right? And then I have to do an assessment. How bad is this problem? And that's kind of like what we talked about a week or two ago with how severe is the substance use? Is it within my scope of practice? Do I need medical detoxification? Would they benefit better from a residential thing? Trying to figure out how severe is this, or are we on the other end where this is maybe some bad decisions. This is substance use or substance abuse, and maybe they'd be better off with a different, if you're working at an inpatient facility, maybe they'd be better off with an outpatient counselor. Symptom management. So here we're focusing on the cravings and the withdrawals especially. Behavioral interventions, that's the B in CBT, right? We got to figure out what else can you do. And that psychoeducation that we talked about before. So what you also need to let them know is that this is time limited. Our sessions are 1 hour, and we're going to meet for 10 weeks, for 10 sessions, right? However, it's every other week or every week, whatever, right? I'm going to let you know that up front. The goal is limited to, we're going to focus on this, and maybe one other thing if you wanted. I think with CBT, it's better if you have limited goals, and then as they are achieved, you can move on, but you can't go in with like a laundry list of things you're going to work on. The structure of the sessions, right? Each week when you come in, I'm going to greet you. How are you? I'm going to tell you what I have planned for that day, ask how you feel about it. We'll check in with your homework and so on and so forth. The expectations of homework. Now I'm going to give you some things to do between our sessions. It's really important. It's really critical that you do it. I would not tell you to do this if I didn't think it was beneficial, right? But that's part of the process. And other expectations, and I put that there because maybe you have other stuff that you want to say to them, right? You might be a more harm reductive counselor who I want you to reduce the drinking, a more abstinence focused person where I want you to stop the use, whatever else you might come up, or you might be saying, I expect you to go to like group counseling, I expect you to take your medication as your physician prescribed, whatever else you want them to know. Now in the middle, right, the middle sessions, we've built rapport, we set the stage, we establish some goals and the problems, we start monitoring, we start doing some basic, we're going to focus on your thought stuff. Now we're in the middle, we're kind of working. I say middle, this is probably session 3-ish, right? It's not like introductions take weeks upon weeks, but we're monitoring the behavior. So if we're following the example of someone who's trying to reduce their drinking, how often are they drinking? What was the context, right? Was it a celebratory drink? Was it a grieving drink? Was it drinking out of boredom? How much was it? What time was it? Who was it with? We're going to start focusing on cognitive distortions. You might recall that from your textbook. There's a laundry list of them, right? The black and white thinking, the overgeneralization, the overpersonalizing, the cognitive filter, stuff like that. And then we're going to keep focusing on enhancing the skills outside of session, right? Did you use your fact checking? Did you use your journal? Did you use your thought record? Here's some other things to do when you get overwhelmed, right? We're giving that to them. Think of the emotion management or the emotion regulation and the distress tolerance things, right? Teaching them the mindfulness skills, right? We want them to use that on their own. We want them to get to a point where they do not need us anymore. So then later on, so that middle part, we're focusing on reducing or stopping the use, maybe the getting it down to zero, whatever it might be. Now later on, when they've established they can use the tools, now we're looking at relapse prevention, right? What to do when you start feeling overwhelmed or it's a unique situation, a novel situation that you haven't experienced before. So this is where that sounds all good and great, and you might be thinking, but wait, it's not just thoughts. It's not like somebody says, somebody who has a substance use problem says, I had a bad day and now I'm going to go get drunk. Some people might think that. But there's also all the other stuff, right? There's the neurobiological aspects, right? So your body and your brain's doing a bunch of stuff. If there's a physical addiction, so I've been saying drinking, but what if it was something like heroin or meth, where there is like this neuronal response where your body's screaming at you, give me more of this. And so that's where we got to go back to the psychoeducation, right? So maybe not in the first 1 or 2 sessions, maybe not in the third, but third, fourth, whatever. Maybe then we're focusing on helping them understand what we mean by substance use, abuse, and addiction. What do those terms mean? What is a craving, right? Because you're probably going to get people come in and say, I don't know, I just wanted to drink. Haven't you ever wanted to just have a drink? Haven't you ever just wanted to have a glass of wine after work, right? What is an urge, right? What are withdrawals, right? So what can they expect? What if it was someone who's like a lifelong user or a heavy user and now they're going to nothing, right? They're going to have withdrawals. What is that like? Because without that information, they might wind up thinking, well, I need it just to feel good. I'm all busted up and I need it. But that is the natural bodily response to pulling back on some substance. Helping them understand what is a trigger, right? So if you know that your temper is a trigger for wanting to drink, it's the only thing that mellows you out, or seeing like family members, right? I'm sure some people can relate to that. Seeing family members, and that brings up all this angst or anxiety or whatever, right? You know that's difficult. So what is a trigger? What are that person's triggers? And how do you handle them? And going over the cognitive distortions, right? Where is the evidence coming from that nobody likes you? Where is the evidence coming from that you failed, right? So the way we help with the triggers and identifying all this stuff is by using thought records. So this might be the homework that I assign. I want you to use this thought record, and when you come in, we'll review it each week, right? And so on this one, and there's lots of them, you can make your own. You can find some real easily on Google. I'm pretty sure every CBT workbook will have something like this, but they would put down the date and time, what was the situation, right? What led to the unpleasant emotion? And it might be, I found out that all my friends went to see a movie and I didn't get to go. Did you have any distressing physical sensations, right? Well, if someone who has a really severe addiction, they might have the implicit reactions where it's like, well, I started feeling my mouth got really dry. I started just wanting to drink. I felt hungry. I felt whatever, right? And it might be nothing. It might just all be cognitive. Your automatic thoughts or images. What went through your mind? Well, I heard they went to the movies, and the first thing I thought is they don't like me. How much do you believe the thought at that time? And now this one says 0 to 100%. You can put it on a scale of 1 to 10, whatever. But how much did you believe it? 100%, right? Maybe this is someone at the very beginning of their counseling journey with you. I absolutely believed it. Why else would they have gone to the movie and not invited me unless they just dislike me? I mean, the proof's in the pudding, right? What emotions did you feel? Anger, embarrassment, shame, guilt, sadness, and how intense were those emotions? So in the case, just to kind of interrupt this flow, is that with addiction, most of the time the emotion is going to be really intense. It was a 10 on a scale of 1 to 10, right? That's just kind of an aside, but I would expect somebody with substance use problems to have really intense emotions, which is why we want to go over the emotion regulation stuff. The adaptive response. What thinking styles did you engage in? Was it black and white thinking? Was it over personalization, right? They all thought, in reality, they thought I was at work, but the way I take it is, no, they didn't invite me because it's me. They didn't want me to go, right? Then there's some extra questions that this one lists. Is this true? What's the evidence? How much do you believe the responses and the outcomes? After you kind of question your thoughts, where's the evidence coming for this? Are there alternative explanations? Or maybe they didn't know I wanted to see the movie. Maybe there was a miscommunication. Maybe they called and, I didn't check my messages. What's the worst that could happen? What would you tell somebody else, right? That adaptive response column, right? That's where we're challenging those thoughts. And then what is the outcome, right? Does that help? I would not expect it to go like a night and day difference, right? These are steps. I guess maybe, I just don't believe it, but that's progress. So there's a saying, I had a professor do this, CBT is about changing your stinking thinking, right? And probably some of y'all have heard me say it in class, but that's what we're talking about here. It takes a lot of time and relatively a lot of time and practice. It's not done overnight. That's what I tell my clients in session, right? It didn't get this way overnight. It's not going to go away overnight, right? But consistency is key, right? And that's where you can see that stages of change comes up again. Someone who's highly motivated, they are willing to be consistent in practice. Someone who's on the far other end in that pre-contemplative stage or even contemplative stage, they might be thinking, I'll do it if I remember, right? But for us, we want them to do it all the time. That's how it winds up being a time-limited approach and how we're focusing on single goals. Their core beliefs, you may or may not explore that, right? That'll come up to between you and your client. You may go all the way down to where did that go, or where did that come from? What does it mean? Was that built on inaccuracies? And it just depends on you, the client, and your setting. We got to examine the thought records, right? So we want them to do it every week, right? And it's going to get difficult for them, but that's part of this process. And you might have to be direct and challenging, right? Where did that thought come from? Now, why do you think that, right? And if they're not doing the homework, why aren't you doing the homework? So I've said this before, and maybe I should have moved this closer to the beginning of the presentation. The cognitive distortions, right? So this is a good list to have. It's a good list to give your clients, print them off. There's tons of images online. Your textbook has some. You can make your own. But these are faulty ways of thinking. And it's really important, and maybe this will speak to some of you watching, how we interact with the world and why we think the way we do sometimes. I know that's really small on the screen. I'll post this on Blackboard. But all or nothing thinking, right? It's one way or the other. Overgeneralizing. I had one bad experience, and so everything's going to be bad. Mental filter. So I go through this every semester, right? So I get my evaluations, and most of the comments are really positive. And then one person, I assume, was just having a bad day. And I get just something like, I get 10 people saying, you're great, you're fantastic, I learned a lot, keep doing what you're doing. And one person who says, he's slow with his emails. And then what is the comment that I hang on to out of it? The criticism, right? That's a filter, right? You have 99 people tell you, you look great. And then one person says, you're okay, right? That's the one that you're going to hang on to. So the mental filter. Jumping to conclusions. Remember the movie Office Space? The jump to conclusions, Matt? Emotional reasoning, right? So this is what we're talking about a lot with feelings, right? We're just acting off of what we're feeling. No logical thinking is taking place. Labeling happens a lot more than you would think, where a person says, that's what I do. I run from my relationships. That's what I do. I cheat. I'm a cheater. That's what I do. I drink because I'm an alcoholic, right? So this labeling, right? Overgeneralizing, disqualifying the positive. So this is, take the damn compliment already, right? Like this is, someone says, hey, that looks really nice on you. Oh, this, right? Catastrophizing, which I do, right? Which is you're running late, and so it's just like, screw the whole thing. Values, right? Should and must, but you don't know really where those values are coming from, and personalizing. Everything is my fault, right? So, for example, when I switched from doing the clinical work to doing more administrative work, I was terminating with a client, and in one particularly rough instance, the person immediately said, "Is this my fault? Are you leaving this counseling center because of me?" And it's like, where did this come from? You know what I mean? It's like, no, it's time for me to change professions for a little bit. That's all. But that would be an example of over personalizing. Now, in my experience with working with substance abuse and especially addiction, the ones that I see the most are perfectionism. So that can be kind of a combination of black and white thinking and over personalizing, right? Everything has to be just so, and if it doesn't, the world falls apart. That's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. And now put in there that your brain and your body is screaming at you for substance or the behavior if it's a process addiction. I think a lot of people would probably go use too if you felt like the world was going to crack in half if you didn't do everything exactly right. That's a lot of pressure. Over personalizing, all the problems in the world are my fault. I'm no good. I'm damaged. I caused this and that, right? Again, that's a lot of responsibility. At what point did you become, or this person become, responsible for everything else? And catastrophizing, right? I gotta cancel coffee, or I got a flat tire. I can't meet for lunch. That means they're done with me. Who wants to be friends with me, right? I spilt some soda on my shirt. What am I going to do now, right? This is not allowing for any mistakes, right? Those are the three that I see most often, and all that pressure that you got to be perfect all of the time, and that everything is your fault, and the end of the world is coming for the slightest misstep. Well, yeah, I probably would want to numb myself too. So let's tie it all together. CBT and neurobiology, how does this work, right? Because there's a relationship here. So it's reciprocal. Someone starts craving, their brain starts firing off, hey, feed me, right? Feed me the substance. That person interprets the physical reaction and starts saying, I should have a drink, right? And again, it's all automatic. Or conversely, there's a trigger, I'm having a bad day. I think, man, today sucks. What a rough day. That thought then becomes a craving, right? It starts signaling, negative affect, right? Negative mood. Let's go get a drink. Let's go use. And now I start thinking, what'll make me feel better is if I use, right? That's how the craving gets interpreted. And then it becomes heavier and heavier and heavier, right? Until it becomes an urge, right? I'm going to go do this, and then I act on it. There's also relationships between distortions, triggers, and cravings. When a trigger occurs, and I put a note here, triggers, especially for those of you that are in my trauma class, triggers here are a much broader subset for substance abuse. It could be things like everybody around me is drinking, or seeing a bunch of commercials for drinks and things like that. It could be, for a lot of people, notoriously what happens is they want to stop drinking, but they also smoke. So now every time they smoke, they start craving something to drink, right? So a trigger occurs. There's a relationship between the distortions and the cravings. Someone says, hey, why don't you come out with us? We're going to go, I guess they say we're going to go out drinking. And so now I get this invitation. I kind of want to stop. Maybe I just don't want to go out. I have this cognitive distortion. If I don't go, they won't like me. Or I'm probably not going to get another chance to go out. It's the end of the semester. It's really busy. I don't think I'm going to be able to go. Or it could be a more positive one, right? It goes both ways. This will be the best night of my life. I got to go do this. I'd be a fool to pass up this opportunity. The brain and body starts expecting, right? It starts firing off, and then you start craving. A drink does sound good. I could go for a drink, right? So the craving's activated, and then there's the urge, right? This is, I'm going to go get the drink, and I do drink. So what do we do in these situations? Well, we want to help the client monitor their experiences, the thoughts and feelings. Is this an accurate thought? So in the example where I get invited to go drinking and I say if I don't go, they'll never invite me again. Well, where's the evidence for that? Am I just assuming that? Maybe I get to a point where I say, why do I think that? Distorted thoughts. If I don't go, I'm a loser, right? Because cool guys get to go out drinking. And if I'm not drinking, I'm not cool. Help them manage cravings, what to do. Like, you want it, okay. Can we urge surf, right? Can you white knuckle it for 20 minutes until the craving passes? And what to do with triggers. What else can you do? And that's everything from go for a walk, go splash some water on your face, meditate, do some mindful breathing, to calling a sponsor, right? So for clients with substance abuse issues, this might be the hardest thing that they do, right? And they need to be kind to themselves. And you also need to not get frustrated with yourself or with them. Nobody gets it the first time around, right? It takes practice, it takes time. This is a big deal for a lot of people. We've also got to acknowledge where they are with stages of change, right? And so you might invite them to talk about, hey, how ready for this are you? I let people know this is going to be really difficult. You can absolutely do it. Are you ready for that? Right? It's going to be hard, and there's going to be missteps, and there's going to be a lot of victories at the end of it. It takes time, though, and a lot of effort. Are you ready for that? Are you ready for that level of commitment? You might also find yourself, and Beck acknowledges this with CBT, for all the emphasis on having a singular, hyper-focused goal, you still might find yourself working on other personal issues. And he acknowledges that, at least with substance abuse and CBT, working on other personal issues might actually lend itself to a reduction in drinking. I'm so sorry, guys. I feel like there's a sneeze coming on and I don't know what to do. So you might have someone who says, yeah, I'm ready for counseling, but I'm not ready to explore ceasing my drinking or drug use, right? So to that, I would say to you, if you came to me and said, I'm not talking about my use, it's off the table. Okay, so what would you like to work on then? And most of the time the person has a response. I want to work on my relationship, on my temper, on work or school or whatever. But it can lead to a reduction in use, and that's important to know. Just because they're not ready to work on it doesn't mean that they aren't ready to work on something else. And that can kind of influence their drinking behavior. And all the same steps would apply. That's going to do it for today. So the takeaway is understanding the CBT, or cognitive interventions for substance use, is we're looking at all the extra pressure and stuff that comes up for a person, is adding all this pressure on top of all the neurobiological aspects of addiction, right? So we've got the neurobiology part of it, we've got the cognitive part of it, and that's a lot of pressure for anybody. And so one thing that we can do, that the neurobiological stuff will kind of change as a function of reducing use and stuff like that. For the harder things like meth and heroin, yes, it might take some specialized detoxing or substance replacement. Those particular ones aside, the neuronal stuff, the plasticity, and all that can change as a function of time and experience. What we want to focus on is educating clients on what is leading to the drinking. Is there some faulty logic there? Is there a cognitive distortion? What are these thinking patterns, and how can we shift that, right? And that's not just good for substance use, it's also good for, this is a good way to maintain relationships. Who wants to go through their life feeling like, if I don't answer the phone every time it rings or respond immediately to every text, then I'm going to be disliked? Or if, conversely, if I'm as the cool kids say, left on red, then does that automatically mean I'm disliked, right? And so this is good stuff to help them just have better relationships and less pressure on them. But in the case of substance use and abuse, right, we're taking a whole lot of pressure off of them. We're giving them the tools to take it off of themselves. So that's all I've got for today. I hope everybody's well. I hope I didn't rush too much through this. I'll post this PowerPoint along with the cognitive distortions list I had on here. And feel free to look around, find some. They're also really good to maybe just file away in case there are NCE questions about, here's Claire and she thinks that everything's her fault. What type of cognitive distortion is this? Those types of questions. So it might be good just to remember in case it shows up on your NCE. Okay, stay well, stay healthy, stay strong. Hope everyone's well. Bye.